Congratulations, you signed up to Toastmasters and you're about to give your icebreaker speech. And right now you're freaking out, you're nervous, you don't know what to do, you don't know how to do this. I got you. In this video, what we're gonna cover is how to organize your icebreaker speech, what actually needs to go in it. I got tools and exercises and resources, basically everything you're gonna need to know to deliver a powerful icebreaker speech for Toastmasters, or say you're a student and you have to do this at school. First off, let's set some expectations. The purpose of the icebreaker speech is really twofold. One is to get you up on that stage and just get you talking. It's not really to judge you and say, oh, you're good, you're bad, or anything like that. It's just to get the jitters out. The first one is always the hardest. The second reason I'm doing the icebreaker speech is to give the group kind of an introduction to who you are, and for us to understand if you're good, bad, what your strengths or weaknesses are, and be able to kind of start directing you. Because every single person's a little bit different. We all have our different strengths, we all have our different weaknesses, and it just takes practice. Before we go too much further, there's one more thing you have to know. The biggest critic is the things that are running inside your own head. You are going to be your own worst critic, so you have to wrangle that right away. Don't worry if you fail, if you stumble, if you fumble, if you say if you forget what you're saying or anything like that. So now that's all taken care of, let's talk about what to actually do when it comes to creating your icebreaker speech. For me, how I always like to start with these things is understanding exactly how much I'm supposed to write, how much material I'm supposed to put in it, because it's about a 5 to 7 minute speech. It's not very long. And the average words per minute spoken is about 150. So let's just average 150 words per minute, which means you need about 900 words to create a 6-minute speech, that happy medium part. That's not a lot of words to write down. And the average person can only remember about 3 to 5 points. Therefore, when you're writing, you don't want to put too much in it. You actually only want to hit just a few key concepts and back away. Say you want to hit that 6-minute speech mark, and you leave 30 seconds for your introduction and your ending. That gives you 5 minutes to cover 3 points. Well, that comes out to about 90 seconds per point. So let's talk about what actually goes into a great icebreaker speech. The whole point of it is for us, the audience, to get to know you, the person. And you are this amazing, multifaceted individual with so much and so many years of experience. How do you distill that down into 5 minutes? I have a couple of techniques for you. So what I want you to do is grab 2 pieces of paper. On the first piece of paper, I want you to draw 4 columns. In the first column, I want you to label it conflicts. In the second column, label it lessons I learned. In the third column, lessons I learned. And in the fourth column, lessons I learned. Generally speaking, every major event or conflict or situation that has happened in your life, you can learn about 1 to 3 lessons from it. And you're wondering why I'm saying conflicts. Well, conflicts tell us the most about an individual. Think about that. Actually, let me prove it to you. In this clip, what does it tell you about the main character?
He's big, he's fast, he obeys orders, he's a soldier.
He's a bully.
You don't win wars with niceness, Doctor. You win wars with guts. Grenade! Go, go, go! Get away! Get back!
Dummy grenade. All clear. Back in formation.
Is this a test?
He's still skinny.
Steve Rogers jumping on a grenade showcases us exactly who he is, why he is worthy of being Captain America. That one scene. Conflicts define who we are. Write down a list of conflicts that have happened in your life. The good, the bad, the interesting. And then take a few moments to think about it and go, what lessons did I learn from those situations in my life? But once you've done that, do you start to see a pattern weaving through these? Are there 3 conflicts, for instance, that all have the same sort of idea or a lesson that you learn? If so, this is something called your through line, and it's great. Circle those 3 lessons and those 3 conflicts. Now you start understanding what you can put into your story, how these 3 conflicts all led you to understand this core concept. But let's say for a minute that you're not seeing a pattern. You're like, my life is all over the place. What I want you to do is go through and look at these different stories and go, what are the core values I learned? What conflicts created these core values, and circle those core values. Now you can start creating a speech about the core values you learned in your life and how they came about. Let's move on to the next exercise, because this is actually gonna work better with the second exercise. What I want you to do is take that second piece of paper and turn it sideways. I want you to draw a line down the center of the paper and label this timeline of my life. At the very beginning, I want you to put a little tiny circle, a dot, and label that I was born. And then on the other side, another dot, and label it today. And start filling out the events that have happened in your life and label them on your timeline. Once you do that, then think about what led up to each of these major conflicts. What happened before the conflict, during the conflict, and after the conflict. If you have just even one really interesting and engaging story, that can easily turn into a 5 to 7 minute speech talking about or leading up to the conflict, that conflict happening, and then the resolution and the fallout. I'll give you a perfect example, and this is 100% true. If I wanted to use this exercise, one of the conflicts that have come up in my life is when I snowboarded down a mountain in nothing but a leopard printed thong, making the front page of the paper. There were different lessons I could learn from this. I could learn about overcoming my fear. I could learn about the risks of being seen. I could also talk about not taking myself too seriously, because it is kind of ridiculous. So depending how I frame that story and I tell that story, I could come up with 3 very distinct lessons. I could build up and lead up to me doing this event. That is a whole interesting story that I've told before. The fallout, the consequences, the results that have happened. That one moment in time defines a lot of who I am. I'm that person who will do that thing, and it's really interesting. That's a great icebreaker speech. Are you starting to see how to put this all together? Once you've kind of figured out all the components, you got the meat and the cheese and all the other things, let's make the burger. Let's actually frame it in a way that works. I'm gonna give you 2 really effective methods of structuring your speech. So the first one is called a 3-act structure, and it goes something like this. Tell them what you're gonna tell them what you told them. Just like this video, I kind of started by telling you what was gonna come about. I'm giving you the information now, and at the end, I do a brief recap. 3-act structure works really well. 90% of the time, it's what I would recommend every speaker to do. It works really effectively. The second way is actually the timeline of my life. If you don't have that one core message that weaves through multiple conflicts, but you have a couple of stories that kind of happen throughout your life that frame your core values really well, then what I would do is I would start from the beginning, the first lesson you learned, how it morphed into the second lesson you learned, and then how that morphed into the third lesson, right? When I was a little boy, my father always told me, bop, 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 bop. Later on in my life, I learned through hard work and dedication, the wisdom of his words, but more importantly, this additional interesting factoid. And that culminated in me going from this low place, this dark night of the soul, to this massive, happy, amazing experience. Thank you so much for coming to my TED Talk. Now that you kind of understand how to structure it, what needs to go in, how long it needs to be, here comes the final component. Actually make the speech. Take the time, write it down, okay? Then the next step really is to take your speech and read it out loud. How we speak and how we write are fundamentally different. If you're reading it, you're gonna realize that you're stumbling and fumbling because how you speak is different. Rewrite it to be more natural. If you're telling stories that have happened in your life, you know those stories. Nobody else knows what these stories are. If you just focus on delivering the fundamental message, if you mess up, nobody's gonna know unless you tell them. So don't tell them. But after you've rewritten your speech, practice it again, rewrite it again. Practice, rewrite. That happens a lot, and that's okay. Once you finally get it to that place you feel really good about, then contact your mentor. You should have been set up with a mentor in your club, and if not, that's okay. Some clubs do it, some clubs don't. But if you have a mentor, definitely talk to them. See if they have notes. If you're really brave, I have a special technique for you. Set your phone up to record video and record yourself while you're speaking in the mirror. Don't look at your phone, which is usually down here. Just look at the mirror and give your speech. Trying to not use your notes is really good too, because the more we practice without the notes, the better we get without using them. But finally, once the day arrives, take a moment to breathe. Know that nobody has died up on stage. Not that I've heard of, at least. So if you get up there and you mess up, it's 100% okay. I believe in you. I'm really excited to see what you guys do. If you've found this helpful, if you've liked this video, please make sure to like and subscribe. I have a bunch more videos on how to be a more effective public speaker, build your brand using social media, public speaking, personal branding. So if you like that sort of stuff, make sure to subscribe and let me know how your speech went. Thank you guys so much. I'll see you in the next video.